Hey everybody, it's Miranda here, and I'm going to be working with some more of the Iron Orchid Decor stamps. And I decided that a lot of these could be used, obviously for home decor, but I'm trying to use them in non-conventional ways and using them on my altar projects. So I have these, it's a stack of 5 heart-shaped boxes. They're fairly large, going up to the smallest one, which is about this big, in comparison to my hand because I don't have a measurement. And they stack over in the corner, and I just don't want to leave them plain paper mache, so I'm going to give them a coat of white gesso, and then we're going to use the periphery stamp from the new Iron Orchid Decor Ink Stamps. Very beautiful, and we are going to use that to make borders around the lids and down on the edges. We're going to use some of these beautiful stamps, kind of like a swag type thing. So that's what we're going to be working on. I'm just going to paint these with the gesso and go from there. I'm going to be using the heavy white gesso from Prima. I'm using the one in the tube. The item number is 962951. So I'm just going to speed up this process. This is a new one, so let me open it. I'm just going to speed up this process. I've already done one of them over here, and I'm going to do these two with y'all, and then we are going to start stamping them. Okay, I've got all my heart boxes painted. Some of them are just plain white. This one I left a little rough. I don't want them to be perfect. I want these to look very aged. I'm going to sand them a bit. I'm going to do quite a few, different color waxes on them. But for now, we're going to do the really fun part. So we're going to use these decor rollers, which you would think typically are just for doing walls and furniture, but we are going to do our little boxes here with these. This box is so big that it is the perfect size for this decor roller. So I am just inking up the sponge part liberally, just being very generous. I just did a couple of projects with it, so I'm just adding a little bit more ink. It really doesn't need that much. This stuff goes a very long way, but just to be sure, I'm adding just a tidbit more on there, and just moving it around as I go, and you can see the color start to transfer onto your roller as you do this. Like the more you turn it, it just starts to roll on there. It's such a great technique. I love that they did this. It's just like a one-step process. Okay, now this might be a little tricky because this is a really weird shaped box. You know, we got a heart-shaped box here. Let me make sure I don't have any ink on my hands, and we're trying to roll around here. Plus my camera is not zooming out any further than I am now. So I'm going to try to focus on the edges and just roll as cleanly as I can around here. If I make a mistake, it is not that big of a deal because we can always sand it away later. So I'm going to start right there in the center and just start rolling around, and you can see already the beautiful design I'm getting there. I mean, it's just super pretty. I'm not being very particular to line anything up, just kind of rolling it a little ways and then lining it up a little bit, going again. This does not have to be perfect by any means at all. Okay, so you can see already this box has a beautiful Baroque design to it. Okay, so we're going to skip to the other side, and the only thing I'm doing is making sure the part where the lid comes down is not focused, the color's not focused there, the design's not focused there, rather. Focusing on the edge that doesn't get covered with the box. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Okay, there's not going to be any way for me to get into this area with that roller, and that is totally okay with me. I have no worries with that at all. So let me hold it up here and show you what we have so far. All the way around we have this beautiful design. Okay, we're going to do the lid now, which should be a little more straightforward. This ink does take a little while to dry. I do recommend every now and then just kind of turning your foam and stamp roller a little bit just to make sure your ink is transferred evenly. Okay, I'm going to go on the sides first, and I'm just going to go all the way around. Okay, just like that. You can see how easy this is, y'all. This is like the easiest thing ever. I'm going to go back this way, stopping where I left off. You do not want to push too hard. This has a natural texture to it. I don't know if you can tell on here, but it's almost like a grid pattern, and that is the texture of the stamp. So if you push too hard, you'll kind of start to glide on here, and you won't get that natural textured look. It'll just be like smooth, and you don't want that. You want the texture of this stamp to show on here. Okay, so just like there, you can see the grid pattern of texture pretty much. Okay, so I'm just going all the way around. You can see I am not trying to be perfect here by any means, and I'm completely happy with my results so far. It looks just like this. Now the easiest part is the top. I'm just going to start in the middle and roll down straight. I mean, how beautiful is this? I love these stamps so, I mean, not these stamps, these rollers so much. They do not just have to lend themselves to walls. You can use these on all of your projects. I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. A couple of rolls of a stamp and you have got the most beautiful background to a box you've ever seen, like ever. I'm going to try to set this on there without messing up any of the ink because this was primed with Gesso. This is drying pretty quickly. On some of the other surfaces I've used it on, it did take a little while to dry because this is a very wet ink, and that is totally fine with me. That zoomed away. Can you see how pretty that is? So that's it. We went from this plain white box to this super beautiful decorative box in just two steps. We painted it with the gesso, and then second step was we stamped it. Okay, for this smaller box I'm going to use another one of the rollers from IOD. This one right here seemed to be about the perfect size, but I decided, you know what, probably not everybody has access to these decor inks right now. So maybe, I know they're sold out, so maybe you can get the stamps, but you cannot get these decor inks to go with the foam. So if you don't want to use paint, you want to like try it with your inks that you have at home, go for it. So these are screwed in there. You have 3 different levels, so you can bring this closer or further away to the roller part depending on how much ink you want on there. Mine was at the medium setting and the low setting here. I'm just going to take the screws out of my rubber part, of my sponge part, I guess I should say. Kind of fumbling on my words. I'm going to need a screwdriver. Give me just a second to get something that'll get that out of there. I don't have my tools handy, but if I did, you could see this would be a lot quicker. So I'm just going to unscrew this using a palette knife because that's what's on hand. And then you can literally just use this thing like a stamp. That's as easy as it gets. You can just roll this thing into your stamp pad and then roll it onto a project. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be home decor. It doesn't have to be, you know, a certain thing. It can be whatever you need it to be, okay? So let me try to get this out really quickly. I should probably do this off camera since I'm struggling. But, oh, there we go. It's coming off pretty easy. They do come off pretty easily when you want them to. Okay. So I'm just going to stamp this off, and we're going to actually use an ink pad just to show y'all that this does come off. Great for easy washing. And then you can literally just run this through your ink pad and then rub it on there. So that's what we're going to do here, just to show y'all that if you don't have the decor ink, you can still use this. I'm going to use Timber Brown. I am going to use Stays On just because I feel like I don't want this to go anywhere. I don't want to have to worry about, you know, this smudging off. So good job, Miranda. Good thing that's why you have those protective covers. So I'm going to show y'all how to do it here. I'm going to take the lid off first, and then you're literally just going to roll it on there just like this, making sure to get both sides really evenly and the middle very good. And to test it out, just make sure, well, it already tested it for us right there. Let me get that up. I don't want to ruin my new desk. Chris will kill me. Make sure I get that up really good. Okay. So you're just going to roll it on here, just like a regular stamp. Making sure to get the whole thing. Now, I usually do a test piece first. For this, I'm just going to roll it over to the back of the box and test it out. Boom, it's working perfectly, okay? So I know it's good to go. I'm going to ink it a few more times. And then I'm going to go right along the edge here, same as before, and roll my pattern on there. And I'm getting a very distressed look because it is not even, and that is perfect. I'm going to be sanding this anyway. So I'm just going to keep going. Boom. Okay, so we're going to go around the edges here of our box. And it's okay to overlap. On my door, I overlapped quite a bit of this particular roller, and it looked really good. It was like a ghosting type effect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set my lid on here. Now we're just going to roll right on top of the lid. This will be the only part where I'm a little bit particular trying to line it up. Other than that, I don't care. We're going for a super distressed look here, really worn, so it's not important to be perfect at all. Boom. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is how to use these beautiful cling stamps on some of your larger ultra projects. Again, I'm going to be using the Stays On and the Frippery stamp. And I'm just inking it up really well. And I'm not going to be using the block with it. I'm just going to be using my hands because this is a curved surface and I need it to really get into all those recessed areas. So I'm just going all the way around here, making sure I've got good coverage. Okay, now I'm taking the lid off and I'm going to use this upper guideline here to line up my piece Now excuse me if this is hard to get on camera. Let me see if I can put something over here to kind of hold it up. And I don't know if I can or not. Let's see, we might just have to go sideways with it. That might be what we have to do. Yep, I might just have to go on this side over here, and that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to do my very best to line this up as perfectly as I can to the top edge. Okay, just like that. And then I'm just going to push down with my fingers. And it sticks pretty well, but you just want to make sure you're getting a good push on there. You can reach through from the back side if you're doing a box, which is extremely helpful. And just give it an extra push with your fingers. Okay, just making sure you're going across the whole thing evenly to get a nice, good impression. This is such a pretty design here. I'm going to be using this on tons and tons of projects. Altered projects, mixed media projects, backgrounds for layouts. I mean, you can use this in a ton of ways. Hopefully this came off as clear as I want it to. Alright, we're going to start peeling one side. Alright, if you see an area that's not quite right, I try to hold up the rest of it, but I'll go back in with my finger and push a little bit more. I probably didn't get enough ink in that area because I pressed pretty darn well. Hopefully that helps. Not really, but that's okay. We're going for shabby here. And voila! That's how beautiful that stamp is. I mean, it's amazing. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to ink up our stamp with some StazOn. Like I said, we could use the Decor ink, but I'm just going to go with the StazOn on this one since we are using the stamp. I'm going to make sure to really saturate that middle area this time, since we had a little minor gap there. But it doesn't bother me at all. This whole line is all about, you know, distress. It's almost like a French flea market type style. It's just absolutely beautiful. So again, I'm going to turn my, let me put this under here, turn my box. I know this is hard to see, y'all. Please bear with me. It's really hard to film tutorials sometimes, especially with larger items. I'm just going to let it lay just how it wants, like that. Okay. Once I get it like that, I can move it because it sticks pretty well. This cling material is very good. It definitely clings. The first place I'm going to push is where that last one didn't get a good impression at. And I'm going to work my way outward, sticking my hand in the back of the box as I go. Now I've got ink and paint and everything all over me. It's going to be a really nice shower tonight. It's been a full day of this. It's super fun working in your craft room. Okay, and I'm not even going to go all the way around the box. I just want the very front of it to be decorative. I use these for storage. I store my like rosette trims and laces and things in them, but I just thought they needed something besides the paper mache look to them. Alright, let's see how that one's doing. Maybe a little more push on the top part. It's okay. Most of this top part's going to get covered with the lid anyway, so it's really not that important. Yep, and we got a much better impression that time. So this is what we've got, y'all. That's how pretty the new Frippery stamp is. It's absolutely gorgeous. It does come with extra medallions, like this one, in case you want to add, you know, more to the end, more hanging here, more hanging there, but I really like the way it is, just like this. So I'm going to leave it as is. When we put the lid on, you can see that a lot of that top part gets covered up and kind of just that royal pattern shows through, which I love. And I'm going to do one stamp across the top here, and I'm going to do it just straight across here, just from there to there. So I'm going to These stamps are such good quality. I mean, you could go to town and decorate these, break out your IOD mold, your Prima flowers, I mean, whatever it is that makes you happy. But I just wanted something just a little extra pretty than the regular paper mache boxes I had stored this in. So I'm going to make sure I get this pretty straight across here. And then just lay it down nice and softly, just like that. And that is good for me. I'm going to take the top off so I can push from the bottom. That way I get a really good impression. So first I'm going to push just to make sure it's nice and on there good. Okay, and I'm going to close up my stays on before I forget to do that. Okay, and then the same thing, like if you're doing a canvas, this would be great on a canvas. You can really push through from the other side to get a better impression. Because when you're on a soft surface like paper mache, canvas, paper, it's very malleable and it's hard to get a really crisp, clean impression unless you're on something super hard. Paper is usually okay as long as you're on a hard desk, but this is definitely hard to get a good impression on. So I am just pushing really well into this all the way around. This is probably my favorite stamp out of the new stamps. I love this one so much. Okay, and I'm just going to go across the top. Make sure I've got that on there. Okay, and then we're just going to pull up. And look how beautiful it is. I love it so much. It's so beautiful. Okay, so that is it. I might do one more stamp or two on here. I haven't quite decided yet, but you guys can see how easy it is to add these to your, you know, your home decor projects or your altered projects. I mean, you name it, it's going to look amazing on there. Okay, for this one I'm using some more of these beautiful stamps here. They're the ones I used on my door. I'm going to add the crown. Actually, I'm going to add, let's see, I haven't used this one yet. I don't know if it's too big though. Let's test it on here and see how this looks. I think it'll be okay. How I lined this up on here is I placed these down on my box how I wanted them first, and then I took my acrylic block and pushed down firmly to get it on there how I wanted it to. And then I'm just going to use it to stamp my image on here, making sure everything's lined up nice and evenly. You don't want it to be all wonky looking. Okay, and again I'm going to use stays on this. I'm going to use Timber Brown. We could totally use the decor ink, but I'm going to go with some stays on. So I'm going all the way around my stamp with the Timber Brown stays on. These oversized stamping blocks are just, oh, they're so perfect. They are a lifesaver. I mean, at first I was like, how in the world am I going to get these gigantic stamps onto any surface? But it's perfect with these. A lot of times I don't use the blocks. I just use my hands, but for situations like this, when you want something lined up, it's the best to just go ahead and use the block. So I'm going over it again just to make sure I didn't miss anything. The distressed look is what I'm going for, so it's okay if I did, but we can always sand. I'd rather sand it off in the end than have like a huge gap and missing in the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to pull this forward and try to line the center tip of my heart up with the lines down here, and I am just going to gently set my stamp set down and start pushing on here. Now it is hard sometimes in this middle area where the handle is to get a good impression, but that's okay. It's not anything you can't overcome. In fact, if I was to take this lid off, let's see if I can do it without messing anything up. Let's try to take the lid off of this box like I should have done from the beginning. Yep, perfect. Okay, let me slide that out of the way. Okay, so as I'm stamping here, I can kind of reach around to the back side and use the back of my hand to push up on this. Now this might not always be the case, but in this particular project, it's definitely a good idea to do that. If you're, oops, and I just moved it, so we're done. Huh. You can see there I just kind of goofed and slipped, but that's okay. I think this looks beautiful just the way it is, and I didn't even get the top impression part here. You can line it up again and go for it. Just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to show you that. Because these are okay. If it's not perfect, that's okay with me. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to try to line this up again as best as I can and show you that it's okay. Like, mistakes are totally okay. I didn't wash my block very well, but it's really easy to line this right back up. So even if you do slip off of there, the only thing I'm going to have to sand off is like the bits where it did slip, and that's fine with me. So I'm going to go ahead and try to not do the same mistake again, but get this top part nice and pushed in there. And I'm going to turn it this way, do the same thing over here, because this is where the area did not show through last time. In fact, I'm just going to flip it over that way. I'll just push with my fingers, just like this. Okay, and then I'm going to lift it off. There we go. So you can see how easy that was to just line it back up. And you've got a few boo-boos here. You know, this is not meant to be there. But once we start sanding this and adding our waxes in different colors, that is not going to matter. So you can see just a beautiful effect that you get there, and how easy it is with this clear acrylic block to line it back up. So don't freak out if you slip. Just try to make the best of it, and just think that mistakes, you know, it makes it distressed. It makes it beautiful. So a little bit of gesso right there, and that's going to cover all of that up. So that is what we've got so far, and I will show you the rest of my boxes.